Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clarksville's Political Forum. I'm Van Stokes, your moderator for today's session. On behalf of Leadership Clarksville and the Clarksville Area Chamber of Commerce, we're glad you could be with us. Today's forum is coming to you from the Mass Communications Department here on the campus of Austin Peay State University, and it is intended for you, the voters, to have an informed choice when you go to the polls to vote on August the 7th. Today, we're going to have the opportunity to meet and greet and hear views from candidates who will be on the ballot for Sheriff of Montgomery County. They are, to my left, Mr. Tyler Barrett, Mr. Dexter Mines, and Mr. John Fuson. Now, in a moment, they will each have 2 minutes in which to present opening comments. Following their opening remarks, we will then turn to our panelists for questions. Joining us today, on my right, once again, the business editor and county government writer for the Leaf Chronicle, Mr. Jimmy Settle. From 5-Star Radio and ClarksvilleNow.com, Mr. Lee Irwin. And the executive director of Progressive Directions and the president-elect of Civitan International, Mr. Jay Albertia. At the conclusion of the questioning, during which each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the questions, they will then have 2 minutes to provide closing statements. Closing statements will come in the reverse order of the opening statements. Our timekeeper for today, Ms. Kim Miller. The sheriff in Montgomery County is the primary conservator of peace, law, and order in the county. The office oversees the county jail, the workhouse, and various divisions and units within the office. This includes oversight of the School Resource Officer program. The sheriff is also responsible for the detection of criminal activities, the arrest of offenders, and the investigation of all felonious activities within the county. Responsibilities also include traffic enforcement, executing warrants and other court orders, as well as a number of other duties. Integrity, law enforcement, and strong management skills are just a few of the attributes needed in this position. Without further ado, let's go to our candidates for opening comments. We will hear first from Mr. Tyler Barrett.
Hello, my name's Tyler Barrett. I've been a lifelong member of the Montgomery County Clarksville community. I go to Hickory Point Methodist Church. I've been married to Kimberly Jones Barrett for right at 27 years, got 4 children, all of which went through the Montgomery County school system, and also lifelong residents here. I've served the last 20 years with the Clarksville Police Department. Before that, I worked for the Belmead Police Department for 3 years. Prior to that, I worked for the Cheatham County Sheriff's Department as a road deputy for 3 years. My duties within the Clarksville Police Department, I've served on the crime scene team for 3 years. I've served as a criminal investigator for 10 years. And I also have served the last 3 years as child advocacy detective, working child rapes and severely abused children cases. In the last sheriff's race in 2010, I ended up pulling right at 38.7% of the vote, which is almost 40% of the vote, against a very strong incumbent sheriff being Norman Lewis. Sheriff Lewis, very good man, done a lot of good things for the county. I thought I did make a good showing in that election, and I think I had a strong platform then. I think I've got a stronger platform now. I've got some ideas on how to make the SRO program stronger. I've got plans on how to make the Montgomery County investigation stronger and patrol division stronger. I think we need to find ways to attack our felonies that's being committed out in our rural county areas. And I'd also like to see us find ways to be more civically involved through the Sheriff's Department, reaching out to our community and doing some things to try to help turn some of our misguided youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have opening comments from Mr. Dexter Mines.
Good evening. My name is Dexter Mines. I am a 1996 person of Montgomery County. I brought here via the military. I spent 24 and a half years serving this great country to which we love. I have 11 and a half years aggregately of law enforcement experience, 2.5 years from Chattanooga Police Department, and also 8.5 years with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. I'm married to Lisa. We have 5 children. My wife Lisa is also retired military also. She's a nurse on Fort Campbell, where she works with the returning warriors from our deserts of Afghanistan and also Iraq. My reason for being here today is because I believe that the Sheriff's Office can be a better ran department. I believe that we have a lot of things going on within the department that needs to be changed. I think that our county to which we live is a county that's ever growing. We have so many things that are happening right here in Montgomery County. We also have in our county things that are happening now in the middle of our streets. Most recently, we had a young man who was killed because of a drug deal that went bad. There are so many things that are going wrong within our county, and we cannot continue to drive down the same road doing the same thing every day. I've been told, and I've read many books, that if you continue to do the same thing and expect different results, you're considered to be crazy. Montgomery County is a great county. It's a striving county. There are a lot of things to which I'm involved in here in our county. I'm the senior pastor of Community Outreach Christian Ministries. I'm also involved with the NAACP. Like Tyler, I do believe that we need to get civically involved within our community, involved with our children at a very young age. We need to involve ourselves as law enforcement officers. I also believe that we need to do everything to support each other as a team. This is not an individual's method or way of doing things. This is a team. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have opening comments from Mr. John Fuson.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to the Chamber and Leadership Clarksville for allowing us to be here for the public to see the candidates firsthand and what their visions are. I am in currently my 17th year of law enforcement with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. I'm a graduate of Northwest High School and Bethel University with a bachelor's in criminal justice. I'm in my 22nd year of marriage with my wife, Jennifer, who's a school teacher for the local school system here. I have 2 daughters and a 4-year-old son. And I've also been involved with the community for 17 years with the Woodlawn Little League, having little children, myself being involved with other children in our community. I've continued to stay involved with that as a coach and a past president of that league. I am a Christian and a member of the Blooming Grove Baptist Church out in Woodlawn where I live. My law enforcement background, as I said, I've been with the Sheriff's Office now in my 17th year. I started as a reserve deputy under then Sheriff Billy Smith. I put myself through the academy as a reserve and started as a court deputy under former incumbent Sheriff Norman Lewis. I moved to the patrol section where I served as a day shift supervisor and a training officer for our new deputies. I also led our tactical unit. I'm currently right now the incumbent sheriff of Montgomery County. I took over in December of 2012 after the passing of our incumbent Sheriff Lewis. My political involvement, I was elected to the 7th District of the County Commission in 2010, where I was a member of 7 committees. I was also elected the Middle Tennessee Director of the County Commissioners Association and wanted to be more involved in politics by aspiring to become the Sheriff of Montgomery County. And again, I was appointed Sheriff in December of 2012. Since becoming Sheriff, I've implemented several programs to improve public safety in our county, starting with training of the employees that we have and ensuring that we have the funding that we need to keep our public safe. In the future, my vision is to continue that. So I'd appreciate your vote in this upcoming election. Thank you.
And thank you very much to each of our candidates for your opening comments. I want to remind you that Mr. Brett Murray will also be on the ballot for Sheriff of Montgomery County. Mr. Murray is unable to be with us here today. Let's turn to our panelists now for questions. We'll begin with Mr. Jimmy Settle. And the first question will go to Mr. Tyler Barrett.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett, all of you have made your introductory remarks, but please pinpoint and describe those aspects of yourself that you feel uniquely qualify you for the position of Montgomery County Sheriff when compared to your opponents.
I feel my investigative experience, I have nearly 10 years of investigative experience. I have nearly 400 felonies that I've actually made arrest on. There's been probably 15 to 2,000 cases I've investigated, but in those cases, I've actually been able to make arrests in right at 400. I think that's important. I know the criminal element. I know how to attack that criminal element. I think that's very important because if you don't know the criminal element, if you don't know who's doing the crimes, we've had a lot of success in the Clarksville Police Department with actually doing what's called ComStat, which we actually watch crime, we monitor repeat offenders, and we attack that crime. I also think that my work ethic, I think that I've always shown that I'm willing to roll my sleeves up and work as long as it takes to get the job done.
Mr. Mines.
The office of sheriff is and should always be an office of integrity. It should always be an office of discipline, and it should always be an office of leadership. I believe that based upon my experience in law enforcement, based upon my experience in the military, I believe that I bring this to the table because we have to make sure that, first of all, as a leader, we have these three attributes: integrity, discipline, and leadership. That's important right from the start. I believe that with these attributes, I believe that I will make a great sheriff for Montgomery County. There are a lot of ideas that I bring to the table. There are a lot of values that I bring to the table because it's important for us as the sheriff to, first of all, be one that can be trusted in doing this job. Then not only do we one that can be trusted doing this job, it can be one that ensures that the people that are in his charge are trusted to do this job. It is important that I bring these attributes to the table, and that's integrity, discipline, and leadership.
Mr. Fuson.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that question. And the biggest answer that I could have to that is just the experience that I've had in the agency, in the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. I'm in my 17th year currently of employment there. I know the employees there. They know me. I know what their capabilities are. I know what our criminal element is in the county. Now, the sheriff is responsible for the entire county, to include the city, to make sure that all riots are afraid and felons are picked up. Traffic is enforced. But that's just part of what the sheriff is there to do. The sheriff is also responsible for the jail, which is the largest part of our budget and our personnel. Public safety in itself is very important. That's what touches the community directly. And the administrative experience, along with the operational experience that I have at the sheriff's office, is what makes me, in my opinion, the better candidate for the job. We manage a very large budget. We manage 340 employees, and I've been there, I've done it operationally, and I've done it administratively for the last 15 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee Irwin, you have the next question. It goes to Mr. Mines for the first response.
Mr. Mines, what do you see as one of the top issues facing the Sheriff's Office, and how would you propose to deal with that issue?
I think that's a great question. I think one of the major things that the Sheriff's Office has is that it's manpower. If they need anything, they need manpower. And of course, everybody, any agency that you would have would always say they would need manpower. But when you're talking about keeping people safe where they live, work, and play, keeping the men and women that are entrusted to do the job safe on a day-to-day basis, you have to have manpower. Being one who's been out on these streets of Montgomery County, having one who's waited on back up to get there, maybe a long length of time, you need manpower, and we have to work on manpower. And we can't all just put that total responsibility on our county commissioners and our mayor. We have to also look inside and figure out how we can do, or what we can do, to put more men and women on the streets to keep us safe.
Mr. Fuson.
The biggest thing that I know we need is to keep up with the growth that we have. Montgomery County is growing very, very rapidly. The last statistic that I had, Lee, you'll probably remember, we're the second quickest growing metropolitan statistical area in the country. Our population is growing. Our industry is driving that. Our good public school system is driving that. And we need to have a public safety system in place that is adequately supplied with manpower and with equipment to get the job done. But I know that we do have to operate within our constraints of our budget. Currently we have $23 million in that budget, and just recently I approached the County Commission to get that increased even further. Our calls for service and our overall service at the Sheriff's Office has grown between 26 and 38%. These things have to be taken care of by manpower, which is money, more money, and equipment. So training, if we can't get the money and equipment of our employees, is the only thing that we can do as leaders to make sure that our employees can handle that growth.
Mr. Barrett?
I feel it's very important for us to reach across the barriers that we have with the Clarksville Police Department and actually make a partnership to attack these areas where the crime is actually going up. I think right now there's not enough communication and cooperation between the two agencies. I think if we can do that, and I think I'm the man to do that, I think I have the personal skills to reach across and actually knowing as many people as I know at the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department, I think I can bring the two agencies together, and some of the manpower problems that they have, we could combine forces and actually get some of that corrected by just simply helping out with the resources, the two agencies combining and helping each other.
Thank you very much. Mr. J. Alberti, you have the next question. Mr. Fuson, you have the next answer.
A few minutes ago, we were talking about funding for the Sheriff's Department. We know that the county is going through its budget process right now. Do you believe that the Sheriff's Department is adequately funded? And if it's not, what areas of need are the greatest concern to you?
Well, the biggest areas is always going to be manpower. All of our agencies in the county government are experiencing this growth. It's not just us, but it's just the importance of what you need to fund, what offices you need to fund. This growth, as I said a while ago, was driven by our industry and our good school system. So we need to make sure that we have a good public safety system in place. So the biggest thing that I can say is the manpower is the biggest issue. We've done staffing studies, the county's done staffing studies, and we're short in our patrol division, we're short in our criminal investigations division, and we're short in our court security division. We have a lot of people that run through the system. Our call volume, as I said a while ago, has increased anywhere from 26 to 38%. So you can see how that growth is, what effects that growth would have on the current employees that we have there now. So manpower is the biggest thing. Where to get that money from? Taxes is the only place you can get it.
Mr. Barrett.
I think when we're looking at our funding, we need a sheriff willing to look at different ways out of the box to do some different things. An example with the SRO program, I could have took the same funding that the sheriff took with 8 SROs, and I could have put SROs in each and every elementary school. I think doing some things like that and having some plans and thinking out of the box, I think just by making those part-time positions, you could have done that. Another place I think that we could actually find some funds is I think the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department is way heavy in command staff. I think they have some command staff that doesn't even have a job description. If you ask people in the Sheriff's Department what do they do, no one knows what they do. So my thing is to downsize the command staff and put more troops on the street and get more deputies on actually out there and actually use the command staff to make up any difference we need on the streets.
Mr. Mines?
I think that's a very good question. Restructuring is not only required, but it's needed. I heard my friend John say that they have a budget of $23 million. On the surface, that sounds like a whole lot of money, but in the reality, that's really not a large amount of money. So we have to do smart things. We also not only have to do smart things, we have to do hard things. Hard things are maybe tightening up our own belt internally. Tyler mentioned command staff. We have to maybe even look at tightening those positions in the sense of restructuring. And when you restructure that, you push that money down. You bring money to the table while you're going to ask the county commission to help you, in a sense, to getting more people on the street, because each one of us has said it's a manpower issue, and we have to find ways, even doing the hard thing, to make sure that we get the right people on the street when needed.
Let's go to Jimmy Settle for the next question. Your question goes to Mr. Tyler Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Overcrowded state prisons create challenges for county jails all across the state of Tennessee, and in Montgomery County that's certainly been a concern, as the jail has frequently inherited some of those prisoners, as you I'm sure are aware. How do we deal with it? What's the solution to that?
Well, on that particular topic, that's a very tough topic. I think Sheriff Fuson has done a good job with trying to make the state responsible and take control of some of the state inmates. I think the only problem where when you put pressure on the state to take these inmates, if you put the right 40 people in jail, that in a jail where it wasn't overcrowded, where you could actually keep them in jail and hold them accountable, I think you'd decrease crime by like probably 95%. So it's a balancing act, and I had spoke to Chief Patterson, which had already initiated some of the things that Sheriff Fuson had implemented with actually forcing the state to take control of some of the inmates, and I think we need to put more pressure on the state to do that.
Mr. Mines?
When you talk about the jail, I've listened to John talk about the things that he's done with regards to the jail. And I absolutely applaud him for doing that job. I think we do need to put state prisoners back where they belong, in state's custody, to make our jails maybe less populated. But when you talk about making them less populated, you're making more room for others to come. We have to also not just move people out of our jails to make them less populated, but we also got to work on things to keep them from being populated. We have to work on our recidivism rate. We have to work on to keeping those same people from coming in and out of our jails. We have to design programs to help these people, that not only when they get out of jail, that they possibly will not return to our jail. So there's a lot of things that we do. It's very important when you talk about our jail, and I do have to say Sheriff Fuson has done a great job with that.
Mr. Fuson.
All right, well, I appreciate that. I know that the jail is the worst part of a sheriff's responsibility, but it is his biggest responsibility. The lion's share of our budget goes to manning the jail with employees. Now, over the last 14, 15 months working with the state, just with the relationships that I have built since becoming a deputy and a county commissioner and now a sheriff, the relationships that I've built with the state have helped me get those 200 removed. Now, I understand the state has got an issue with overcrowding in the jail, as many states do, but this isn't our problem. We are not in the incarceration business in the jail. We're in there to hold them until they go to trial. In some cases, they get sentenced to the county jail, but in most cases, they get sentenced to the state jail. The only thing that we can do to help curb that is through deterring crime and through working with the state to help them implement programs in our jail that doesn't cost the local taxpayers any extra. The state is responsible for the incarceration. So I would just want to put that on them.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee Irwin, you have the next question. It goes to Mr. Dexter Mines.
Mr. Mines, a while back the School Resource Officer Program was expanded in Montgomery County. What do you see are other needs to help improve the SRO program?
Wow, Lee, that's a real good question. When you think about why we expanded, the reason your heart goes out to those folks out in Newtown and those families, and we realize that we need to put those deputies in our elementary schools and things of that nature, and they, with the cooperation of the school system, the sheriff's office, we put deputies in those particular schools, but we still don't have enough. We have some deputies who are covering 3 schools. You have to ask yourself, is that safe? Because they have 3 schools to cover. How can they be at 3 schools at one time? We have to look again internally how we're going to fix those problems. I've always been taught when I was in the military, if you're going to have a problem, you also need to bring a solution. And so we need to sit down and figure out what's the solution to that problem. One of the solutions is manpower. How do we figure that out? So when you talk about the expansion of the SRO program, I think that was a great idea. However, I think we sort of just did enough to put a Band-Aid on it.
Mr. Fuson.
Well, I appreciate it, and I know the SRO program that we did begin not long after I took office in the elementary schools was in light of the tragedies that we've seen across the country, and I know that we don't want that to happen in our county, and I wanted to do everything that I could to get the funding that we needed to start that program. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about part-time SROs in the schools to save money, to divide that up. But to us, it wasn't practical. I sat with Dr. Worthington, went to school safety summits in Nashville, talked to other school administrators and law enforcement officials, and the best approach to that would be to have full-time law enforcement officers there. Now, how to bite all of this off of this big apple is just at one bite at a time. My experience as commissioner has told me that taking one bite off of the problem at a time will eventually get you funded. The 8 SROs for 24 schools, soon to be 25 schools, is a big undertaking, but we are starting there. We had to have a starting point, and that's where we're at. So we will eventually finish that program and have one at every school.
Mr. Barrett?
If I had been sheriff when this was initiated, I think I could have took the funding for the 8 SROs and I could have expanded it, and we could have had them in all the elementary schools by actually hiring retired CPD officers, and that would also save us from sending people to the academy, also retired SO officers. All these, a retired police officer or deputy, they love to serve, and they would love to step into our schools and help protect our children. I think it's another thing we could do is actually start a RAD program, which is Rape Aggression Defense, to empower our young girls in middle school and high school. And there's also a program for that to help children, to stop them from being abducted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. J. Alberti, you have the next question. It goes to Mr. Fuson.
Mr. Fuson, staying on the sort of theme of children right now, we had conversations with the judge candidates earlier, and we discussed a juvenile detention facility. Do you believe that our county needs one, and is it time to have one in our community?
Well, I believe that we're big enough to where we could have one. We need some place to bring the juveniles, and I know the judges would agree to that. Every juvenile that comes across us, we have to run through the court system to get them placed. And placement for us is down in Murray County, where we would have to transport them to be detained there until they come to trial. But I know that in order to operate a facility like that here in this county, pay for the electricity, pay for the operational expense there, and pay for the employees there, we would be upside down. We don't have that. We do have a juvenile problem, but it's not to the point to where we need to man our own station to hold them here. Now, eventually, we probably will get there. But other than programs that the courts offer these children to kind of get through their issues, and just deterrence of crime is about the only thing that we can do as law enforcement. But it would be nice to have someplace here, but right now we're just not quite there to where it wouldn't make very good financial sense to have one here in our county. Thank you.
Mr. Tyler Barrett.
I think we definitely need one. In 2010, I said we needed one. I'd like for it to be a multi-purpose facility where we also try to run a boot camp through it, actually have the boot camp where if kids get through the boot camp, get businesses to buy into it and actually have a job training program for them. Also have a police athletic league where we could do a mentoring program and have tutoring arranged. I was involved in a program like that in Nashville. It was very successful. I was one of the ones in charge in the wrestling program up there. They had about 7 different sports, and the kids that were in the program, their grades went up, their self-esteem went up, and it gave them contacts away from the negative contacts that they had on the same street corner. Right now, we either incarcerate them or we throw them back on the same street corner and wonder why they're doing drive-by shootings in a year or two.
Mr. Mines.
The simple answer that I have to that question is yes. We need a juvenile detention center. It has been said that we don't have gang problems. We do have gang problems. Juvenile crime is on the rise. For the first time that I know of in Montgomery County, we're actually electing a juvenile court judge. It has also been shared with me that 2 years ago we had 11,000 juvenile cases. Now we have over 16,000 plus juvenile cases. We're steadily increasing, and the more we keep saying that we don't have the fundage, the more this problem gets bigger and bigger. We have to stop being reactive. We have to be proactive. We have to start putting my friend John said, we need to take a bite out of the apple. In this particular case, we need to take a bite out of the apple because our juvenile crime is going up, and we need to do something. We need to have a detention center that we can do something here in Montgomery County.
Mr. Jimmy Settle, you have the next question, and it's going to go to Mr. Tyler Barrett.
Mr. Barrett, crime is the essence of the job and tackling crime. What do you identify as the most troubling and perplexing criminal activity that's currently happening in Montgomery County? And please share your plan of attack.
For the last 3 years, I've served as a child advocacy detective. I think people do not realize how many pedophiles and perpetrators that are just searching and hunting for our children are out there. They're using the internet, they're using cell phones. Nowadays you got a cell phone that's got the capacity of what a computer would have 10 years ago. And I think that we need to fight those crimes harder. I think that ICAC, we need more resources for that. We need some computer people involved in ICAC to actually forensic people that can do forensics on phones and do forensics on computers where we get a bigger turnaround. We had an opportunity to actually lead a task force, and it ended up going to Dixon about 10 years ago, and that was very sad. So now they've got a very nice forensic computer lab down in Dixon that does cell phones and computers for all of Middle Tennessee. And we had an opportunity to have that.
Mr. Mines.
I think there's a variety of crime that's happening here in Montgomery County. I do believe that a lot of our juveniles are involved in them. Some of them are involved because of gang initiation, and they're required to do certain things with regards to being a part of that gang. And I think we have to find ways of attacking that particular problem with regards to our juveniles. That's why it is important to have a juvenile detention center. Also, I believe that we have an issue with sex crimes as it relates to juveniles. We have, if you've noticed here lately, we have a lot of people who've been charged with sex crimes. I mean, very older people and compared to younger people. We have a lot of different problems that we must face. There have a lot of different things that we must, to say that there's one particular problem that stands out, they all stand out, and they're all increasing.
Mr. Fuson.
Well, I can tell you that I know what the biggest problem that we're having in Montgomery County, just via the position that I'm in. Our drug problem in Montgomery County is a big problem. I would venture to say more than half of the people that we have in our jail right now are there for drug-related type incidents, be it a theft, be it an assault, be it a burglary, anything like that. So the biggest problem is curbing that. Now, Tennessee, for most of you who don't know, has been #1 in meth production since 2010. Right now we're teetering back and forth with Indiana. Their legislators taking action right now to strengthen those laws. And I myself, along with other sheriffs, 95 sheriffs in the state of Tennessee, have been in Nashville quite a bit this summer just to strengthen some of our meth laws. Some people may agree, some people may disagree with the reasoning behind some of that, but we have a problem. We're #1 in the country with that. Drugs drive a lot of the crime that we have here in this county, and meth is one of the biggest ones. So we control that, and we can control a lot of the other issues.
You're watching Clarksville's Political Forum. We are meeting and talking with candidates for Montgomery County Sheriff, Mr. Tyler Barrett, Mr. Dexter Mines, and Mr. John Fuson. We've got time for a couple of more questions from our panelists before we go to our closing comments. Mr. Lee Irwin, you have the next question. It goes to Mr. Dexter Mines.
Mr. Mines, cooperation between entities is, of course, very important. How do you propose to maintain a good working relationship with the county mayor, the Montgomery County Commission, say to further your goals within the sheriff's office?
I think that's a good question, and I think that we have to make sure that we communicate. Communication is the key to it all. We have to sit down and talk about our problems. We have to make sure that we understand not only what the police department is doing, the police department needs to know what the sheriff's department is doing. We need to know with regards to when we talk about sitting down with our mayors and our county commissioners, we need to get them to understand as we talk to them, not only that we have a problem, but why we have a problem. Not only why we have a problem, but what's our method or what we're going to do to fix that problem or what we're going to look at to fix that problem. It is absolutely important for all entities of the government of Montgomery County to talk. It's not just the sheriff's job to fix everything, it's a team. It's a team effort. And when we understand that, then this will be a better county.
Mr. Fuson.
I can agree with communication and relationships being the biggest part of getting done what you need to get done as any department head or elected official. And I know the relationships that I've built, again, as a deputy and as a county commissioner, I understand how the process works. So I understand what the commissioners would be looking at from us. And the biggest thing that you got to have is you got to have trust and confidence in the person that's in those positions every time they come in front of you with a budget request. And I know that I have that with the commissioners that are there now. They know that I'm not going to ask for anything that I don't need, and they know that we have growth problems, and they know that public safety should be a top priority. So communication is a big thing. Working with other agencies to pool resources to get the job done is something huge that we need to be doing, and that's what we've been doing. But this takes reciprocation between both agencies. They have responsibilities in their counties or their agencies to do, as do we. We help wherever we can and however we can, not just with resources, but with information.
Mr. Barrett.
Cooperation between the Clarksville Police Department and the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department in areas of investigations. Every week we have a meeting where we sit down and all our investigators are held accountable. I think that if you opened it up to the county investigators and they come in and watched it and done some things like that, the people we got doing burglaries in Woodlawn are the same ones we have doing burglaries in New Providence. I think those types of things would be important to actually reach across the aisle and get those things done. Another area is if there's a law enforcement need that you need combined forces from the city and the county. I think if you've got good rapport between the sheriff and the police chief, that they could jointly make actually presentations to the county commission and also the city council, and then it would help get some things done on things like a juvenile detention facility, because the city would benefit greatly by the detention facility. So I think we should reach out to the city along with the county to work to get that done.
Thank you very much. Mr. J. Alberti, you have the final question from our panelists today, and it goes to Mr. John Fuson.
Mr. Fuson, I'm going to take us off a different path a little bit. We've been talking about everything that it has to do with working with the Sheriff's Department and all of the many hours that you put in. But I think one of the defining things that the citizens at home want to know, what is your greatest accomplishment, and why do you think it is your greatest accomplishment?
I would say the biggest and greatest accomplishment is just the relationship and the mutual respect that we've built together as an agency. Again, I can't say enough about how important, as we said a while ago, about communication and relationships and being able to get the job done. But just working with the employees there, knowing the department heads and the other agencies within county and city government, the respect that we have for one another. Whenever we need something, we know we're just a phone call or an email in these days just away. And we've handled several things that way. Any problem that any agency would have, any problem that any constituent would have, they know that we're there. They know that we have the resources. They know that we understand their issues and they understand ours. So we work very well together getting the job done. And I would say the greatest accomplishment just overall is just the experience and the respect that I've built mutually with the other department heads and agencies in all of Montgomery County and the city of Clarksville.
Mr. Tyler Barrett.
The thing I'm proudest of in law enforcement is I've been president over the Clarksville Police Union. We've actually, when we went through a rough time with the police department, I actually helped put a positive face with the police department, actually reaching out, doing charitable things for underprivileged children, doing a lot of things with little leagues. We've got signs on just about every little league field in Montgomery County, sponsoring little league teams in just about every league. I think those things are very important, and I'm also very proud of the fact of the hard work I've put in to hold criminals accountable and actually putting criminals in jail and making our community safer. I think that the last 3 years I've worked putting pedophiles in jail and child rapists is probably another very rewarding thing that I've been actually accomplished and done some things I didn't think I'd be able to do as an investigator. Thank you.
Mr. Mines.
I think that's a real good question. I really believe that people need to know that there's a person behind the badge. Some people see that uniform and they see that badge and all they see is the police. But they need to know that there's a person behind that badge who will arrest you, who will write you a ticket, but also cares about you as a citizen of Montgomery County. You know, all of us, I think, sitting at this table, we've made mistakes in life. We need to also understand that. And one of my biggest accomplishments as a deputy, as a pastor, as a person involved with Tabernacle Christian School, the Cunningham Volunteer Fire Department, is helping people and making sure people understand that that's what we're there for, is to help you, not to always incarcerate you, not to always write you citations and things of that nature. And I think my biggest accomplishment in life, and even being a law enforcement officer, is helping people.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for answering these questions from our panelists. Questions have dealt with issues such as funding for the Sheriff's Department, a $23 million budget. We're talking about manpower issues, overcrowding in the jail, the School Resource Officer Program, very important to this community, tackling crime that comes with growth, drug-related crimes, and the all-encompassing issue of public safety. Appreciate you answering those questions very much. We now turn to our closing comments from our candidates today. We will hear first for 2 minutes of closing comments from Mr. John Fuson.
Well, thank you, and thank you again to the Chamber and Leadership Clarksville for hosting this. I think it's very important for the people, the voters, to see who they're voting for and to make an informed decision when they go to the ballot box in August. You know, I can't say enough about the job that I do and why I do it. It is because I want to serve. You have to have people in positions like this that have that willingness and that desire to serve the public. I grew up from meager means. We didn't have anything growing up. I know what it's like to be on the other side of that. So I've strived through life to get to where I am today, and I'm very proud of my accomplishments. And I thank God for the opportunities that He's given me. And I know the opportunity that He gave me on December 12th when I was appointed sheriff would be an opportunity for me to show that back to the community as the sheriff of this county. And I feel that I have done that. I have built bridges between agencies that in the past somehow got crumbled. I don't understand how that happened. I wasn't in a position then to understand that. The only thing I can focus on now is from here and into the future. And that's what I want to do, to make Montgomery County the brightest and the safest county in the state of Tennessee. Inmates, overcrowding at the jail, budget constraints, operating within our means, all are tough things to do as a sheriff when you have a job to do to protect a county, when you're seeing a 26 to 38% growth in what we do. But we're going to stay the course. It's always the tough decision to ask for more money because you know where that money's going to come from. It's going to come from the taxpayer. Nobody wants to pay no more taxes. I don't want to pay any more taxes, but we're a growing community and we got to stay on top of our public safety issues. We don't have community without safety in the public. And I want to make sure that we continue to provide a safe public as your sheriff. but that's going to take appropriate funding to do so. Now, whatever we get, we will operate within our means. We will make innovative changes in our staff. We will make innovative changes in our fleet and our equipment to get the job done, and that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you very much. Next, we will have closing comments from Mr. Dexter Mines.
Let me say thank you to the Chamber. Also, thank you to Leadership Clarksville for hosting this event. It has been a great series of questions. As you can see, we have a large undertaking ahead of us. We have a lot of things that we must get done. But the question becomes, how do we get those things done? And we have to find a way of sitting down at the table. We have to find a way of making all of these things work. Our crime is on the rise in Montgomery County, but we, as leaders, we have to sit down and find a way to maybe curb those crimes or reduce those crimes. And I must say, before I go any further, that I am gracious to the job that Sheriff Fuson has done, because I want to make sure that we have a place that's safe, where we live, work, and play. Now, you said, well, if I'm proud of the job that Sheriff Fuson done, why am I running against him? Because I do also think that it can be better. The three people that you see sitting here at this table, none of us have been elected by you, the people. We have one. John was appointed by the county commission, and he took that reins of that, and he went on with that. He should have some stats. He should be able to tell us a little bit about what's going on in our county now. But we all know that we still have a problem that we must attack. And you, as a people, you have to decide, who do you want to make these decisions? Who do you want? Do you want someone with energy that will do the hard thing, that don't mind making the hard decisions, even if those hard decisions are internal? Sometimes we have to do things that we thought we would not do. But if we keep on throwing or just putting a Band-Aid on these problems and not willing to stand up and do hard things, we're going to have a county that's out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you just to think about who you're going to vote for and why you're going to vote for them. And I hope that you vote for the right person. Vote Mines for Sheriff.
Thank you very much. And now we'll hear closing comments from Mr. Tyler Barrett.
I'd like to thank the Chamber and also Leadership Clarksville for having us here today. We had a debate last week, and Sheriff Fuson mentioned felony crimes are way up. I feel I'm the candidate to curb those. I have the most local experience to do so, and that's what I bring to the table. I fully understand that the sheriff has to be able to, it's like a big puzzle, and there's a lot of people that actually fit into that puzzle. It's like with Chief Tackett. Chief Tackett does a wonderful job with the jail. John Smith does a good job with the budget, helping the sheriff. Several different pieces that are in there that, again, a lot of times don't get enough credit. And but when felony crimes are going up, and Sheriff Fuson's had the last 15 months to shine. He's had 15 months to actually try to get the felony crimes under control. And I've not heard anything being said about what's being done to get those felonies under control. And working for the Clarksville Police Department, there's a lot of times that our manpower was way down, and we still produced and we still reduced crime. And I think those things are very important. I think those things need to be done. I think that I bring a lot of area expertise and investigations in all different fields, between making your houses safer, stopping these residential burglaries, the robberies, the child rapes, all of which is happening, and more needs to be done about that. I also think it's important that we make sure that we're accurately reporting all of our crimes. And the only way you can accurately attack those crimes is it being reported correctly. I know of several instances where different crimes have been reported as vandalisms, that they were burglaries, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I want to remind those of you at home that also on the ballot for Montgomery County Sheriff is Mr. Brett Murray. Mr. Murray unable to be with us here today. I want to say thank you to each one of our candidates running for Montgomery County Sheriff for sharing your time, your ideas, and your thoughts about that office today. Gentlemen, thank you all very, very much. I also want to say thank you to our panelists again. Thank you again for your very insightful questions. It's a pleasure to work with you as always. And to those of you who are watching at home, I want to remind you that voting day is August the 7th. That's state, primary, and county general elections. If you would prefer early voting, that period runs from July the 18th through August the 2nd. You can cast your vote at the Montgomery County Election Commission, located at Montgomery Veterans Plaza at 350 Pageant Lane. And once again, a big thank you to those folks here at the Mass Communications Department here on the campus of Austin Peay State University, as well as to your Clarksville area Chamber of Commerce and Leadership Clarksville for making this forum possible. We hope that it gives you an informed choice when you go to the polls. I'm Van Stokes. Thank you for watching, everyone.